Hey folks, I'm Andrea and this is the Capitalism for Good podcast. This is 100 interviews with business leaders making a positive impact on their community. I am not a professional podcaster, I am not a seasoned creator, but I am a small business owner looking to learn from other business owners who are making against the grain decisions to leverage the ways in which we make and spend our money in order to support our community. There are links to the people and the places that we reference in the show notes and also the company mentions page that's also linked in the show notes below. There's an ad-free version as well as an exclusive Between the Interviews series at patreon.com/capitalismforgood. You can also follow the podcast and the sister projects, Bittersweet Paradox and Capitalism for Green on social media. And as always, I love to hear your thoughts, I love to hear your recommendations, and I especially love to hear about the good things that you see going on in your community. So please share away, send me all of the things that you see and think and are doing out there in the world that is supporting your community. Today we have Peter Yacobellis. He is the Director of Sales and Marketing at Outdoor Odysseys, which is an outdoor wildlife kayaking tour company in the San Juan Islands of Washington State. This is a company of which I personally am a repeat customer of and am so excited to just shine a big ol' fat spotlight on. This is part 2 of a series that is also with Tom Murphy, the owner of Outdoor Odysseys, and I truly just cannot speak highly enough about these two folks and their company. I usually try to keep my bias a little bit quiet within this project, but I truly recommend booking a tour with them and you will hear me just like insert my own little stories and thoughts and memories and just all of the great things that I think about them. You'll hear me insert all of those things. Probably a little bit more than I normally do, but it's because I personally believe and love this company so much, and I think there's so much that we can learn from them about the wildlife, about the local economy, about taking care of like the earth around us, but also about how we treat one another within a business sense. Today, Peter and I not only talk about how great his boss Tom is, how Peter got to where he is today, we also talk about like his take on his marketing strategies that are like this analog kind of focused strategies that truly work. This company is going on its 40th season and just continues to go against the grain of a lot of like the trendy, shiny, loud tactics that we see a lot today. And I think that there's a lot that we can learn from them and also just like appreciate from a customer outsider's perspective as well. I will also say that Peter really indulges me on like a global perspective of modern day capitalism and the society that has been built through this modern capitalism. Peter shares his perspective, which I will let him speak to so that I don't butcher his like eloquent thoughts in any kind of a way, but it's one thing that I walked away from this thinking specifically about the longevity of small businesses like this that refuse to chase the shiny objects and how that's lasted despite some of the pressures of this large scale capitalism that I think sometimes like co-ops the entire definition of capitalism. But from my perspective, and one of the big reasons why I wanted to put capitalism in the name of this project is I think there's room for small businesses. I think there's room for folks to go against the grain. I think there's ways to kind of fight back against this monopoly system of single use product sales and greed and this like need for more and this need to achieve in a certain kind of way at the expense of others that I think sometimes gives capitalism as an economic practice and capitalism as a structure a bad name. And yet I'm consistently reminded through this project that that's not the only version of capitalism and that is not the only experience of capitalism that exists out there. In fact, there is this like small scale version of capitalism that's thriving on a more micro scale, even though the voices of capitalism, like this modern day late stage capitalism, often become very loud and have essentially like monopolized a lot of our thought processes, there's still this existence of small scale capitalism that lives and thrives there, which I think is important to continue to think about and to acknowledge and to support where you think personally is best, especially because I find it to be increasingly tough because of the pressures of some of those like large scale monopolies that often put a bad taste in our mouths when we're thinking about things like this. That makes it really tough for these like small scale things to exist, but that doesn't mean that they're not existing. That doesn't mean that they're not thriving and fighting in really doing their best to maintain what they feel is best and beautiful about this entire like planet that we live on, and finding ways to just appreciate that and appreciate the people and appreciate the nature around them. And I just think this is a really great example of it, and that was one of the takeaways that I walked away, is there is a way that small scale capitalism still works, even though there are a lot of reasons to believe that it doesn't. And I think that there's still room for the entire conversation. I think there's room to discuss other sides of that. And you'll find that in other episodes of Capitalism for Good. You'll also find that in other discussions kind of all over. And I would encourage you to talk to the people around you about what your thoughts and feelings and actions are when it comes to how we make and spend our money and how we're leveraging our position in that world. So anyway, that's my perspective. I will let Peter take over with his experience and his perspective. So enjoy. Okay, Director
Okay.
of Sales and Marketing for Outdoor Odysseys. What brought you here?
Yeah. Oh gosh. What brought me here was a lifestyle choice to move, to blow up my life completely on the East Coast, and we'll get into that, and to move myself out to a remote island in Washington State called San Juan Island. Um, I moved first before I had anything. I didn't have anything lined up. I didn't have a relationship. I didn't have friends. I didn't have a house. I didn't have a job. So I decided where I wanted to be, and I moved myself there, and then I created a life based on that. So only after being there for 6 months or so did I come across, by actually being a customer first with Outdoor Odysseys and staying in touch with the company through social media and staying in touch with the guide, Eli, who took me out on that first tour. It's through that I ended up seeing the posting for this, a different version of this position, an earlier version of this position, which was much more sort of operations and still sales and customer service focused. It's since evolved. But prior to that was, a little bit of a smaller role, but finding it essentially by being a customer and following the brand online, and then just magic happened.
So you said you were on the East Coast. Where were you? What were you doing then?
So yeah, I've had a long life, long and storied professional career with many different chapters to it. Some of that's like not never really knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up, and some of it's trial and error, and some of it is just enjoying a life full of diverse experiences and being really intentional about that. So I've had, a segmented career, a lot of time in public service. I was both an elected official for a period of time. I was an appointed official for a period of time. I had a career in corporate America, working for big companies like American Express and biotech, and working for New York City for their tourism and marketing agency, which is where I get some of that experience for what I do now. So pretty diverse background, going back to the 90s with a, short career in retail. So I've been around.
Yeah. And then you said you were a customer of Outdoor Odyssey. Can you talk about what drew you to Friday Harbor? There's something so cool and special about the San Juan Islands and that area. I want to know your perspective and like what was like, nope, this is for me.
Yeah. And I've since left. Actually, I live in, downtown Seattle now, and
Okay.
us talking about it this way, I'm like, oh, I miss it so much.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, look, I think I had a very intense life. Just living in New York, New Jersey alone is extremely intense when you think about congestion, you think about traffic. People are so busy, life is so expensive. There's like this like tension, palpable tension all the time. People are cranky. Because everybody's so busy, I feel like interactions are like very transactional and nobody has time for the real answer when somebody asks you how you're doing, kind of a thing. And I was just really struggling with that all not jiving with my soul. And when I got to Friday Harbor, first of all, like my body came alive in the climate, and you've been there in the middle of summer. It's like there's no humidity. Like it's so pleasant. There's a beautiful cool breeze off the ocean. The sun is shining. It's like I feel good being outside. Oh, and by the way, I can be outside like every single day. So that was a huge part of it. And then you start seeing how you're being treated, on the street by strangers and the eye contact and people holding doors for you and, not crossing the street until it's like your turn, like waiting for the light to change and using crosswalks and just this overall slowed, peaceful pace. And then for me, just from a values perspective too, like there aren't a ton of places in America where rural and liberal or progressive go together. And that I found fascinating too. Is like, wow, the politics are right kind of where I am from a values perspective. And like we value the land and how food is being cultivated, so there was just so many boxes being checked that I was overwhelmed by it, to be honest. Like this is, and everyone thought I was crazy. Not everybody, some people got it, but like a lot of people thought I was nuts. They're like, "You're moving where? Why? Like, what's happening?" Like, I don't know how to explain it, but when you go somewhere, your body is telling you and your soul is telling you this is the right place for you. This is home. This is a safe space. This is where you'll thrive.
Yeah.
How do you ignore that? You
Yeah.
know, and lucky enough where I was in my life at that point, obviously I had to break some important things, and that was really hard, including a long-term relationship that I was in, and that was devastating and difficult to go through. I don't want to say devastating; it wasn't devastating. Hard. It was
Right.
hard to
Yeah.
go through. And that was a diverging of pathways when we had converged and made a decision to converge. So there's a lot of explaining to do to people, but ultimately, I would say I followed my gut. I followed my heart.
Yeah. Going on a tour with a tour guide who was like, let me tell you about the food that we're eating. Let me tell you about what you're looking at here. Oh, there might be a whale that is in the vicinity, and we're going to give you a heads up right now that if one comes by, we're not going closer to it. We're going to give it its like it was like everything. At one point, there was like a jellyfish on our first tour, and it was like everyone gathered around and we learned about jellyfish. And like the amount of education that was mixed into an adventure activity tour was so cool and like very exciting. And I loved all of the people that we met. Like the details of Outdoor Odyssey were really interesting to me.
I'm so happy that that was your experience. That's awesome.
Was that similar at all to your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like it's part of like being in the environment. I'd never really kayaked before. I'm sure I've been in kayaks and vacations and things like that, but like in a serious way, certainly in the sea.
Yeah.
I had not done that before. I was in the boat. I think there were two other people. So there was three customers, and so it was an odd number. So then I was in the boat with the guide, Eli, and I remember him being like loving what he was doing, and that passion was just coming through. He was so proud to work for the company. He loved what he was doing. He was so passionate about the environment. And so similarly, that's just infectious, right? That just like rubs off on you. It's like, oh yeah, wow, that is really cool kelp, but I didn't know anything about that, and that, wow, that is like, I can't believe we just saw that bald eagle swoop down and get a fish out of the water. Like all of those things. It's like you're just like brought so into the moment in so many ways. And then at the same time, like you're brought into the moment, which feels like you're shrinking your world, but at the
Yeah.
same time that your aperture is opening up, right? To your point, to the things around you. So it's great. I'm into all that stuff with like the microverse and all that, like like the fact that like the, microbial world and all that is so interesting to me, like what happens on all of those levels. And then comparing that to like the ever expanding infinite universe that we live in. Just my mind is just blown with all of that and this question about scale, and if it even matters at all. But I
Yeah.
think just from the perspective of like the human experience on this planet, at least in this life, being so overstimulated all the time and having everything, and I think maybe this will dovetail into the overall theme of your podcast in general, like in a capitalist society, everything is always bigger, better, faster, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that you could shrink it down to a moment, to a small interaction, to just being in a kayak, to seeing a bird or a jellyfish, and your aperture opens up and you gain this a different perspective than you had, and you get to really feel something that you not maybe haven't felt in a long time, feels really special to me and feels, almost like certainly what I was craving, what my spirit was craving at the time. And I think what a lot of people are craving as well. We do a lot of things right, but like we're not Harvard educated business people,
Mm.
like we're a couple of guys and a team of incredible guides, just pouring their heart into what we do and just trying to have it be meaningful. And I am constantly delighted by this like parade of reviews that we get. I mean, like we just get the best reviews, and it's like really like we're that, not to say it this way, but it's like we're that good. Like I don't get it. Like we're just we're just like we could just kind of doing what we are supposed to do and providing a good product and being honest with people about the experience they're going to have and like just being really interested in it, and
Yeah.
it's not about you know, it is about making money in the sense that you got to make money to do what we do, right? And for it to be worthwhile.
Yeah.
But it's almost not about making money.
Yeah.
And that doesn't manifest itself in the experience of a guest when you're on a trip.
Mm.
It's not upselling you on anything. We're not trying to sell you another trip.
Yeah.
It's very much about like we're here, we're in nature. Let's
Yeah.
let's be together and have this experience. And that's why I love our guides so much. And being around them, their energy is
Yes.
awesome. I'm 46 years old. If you asked me academically, put you in a room with a bunch of, 19, 20, 21, 22-year olds, would you learn anything? I'd be like, no, are you kidding? Yeah. No, but what are they going to teach me? How to scroll on like social
Yeah.
media? And I can't tell you how much I am learning from when I'm around them, particularly perspective.
Mm.
It also gives me so much hope, I have to tell you, like, because they're fundamentally great human beings, good stewards of the planet and the environment. They care about all these issues. And it also just gives me hope because it doesn't feel like they're part of what a lot of people call a lost generation,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Like they're not lost in doom scrolling, trying to find their way in the world. And maybe some of them are, and maybe they're on that search, and this is part of it. Most of them, in my interaction with them, they feel very much themselves alive, hopeful, and at home.
Yeah. You don't have to sell your next trip because the experience does it for you in the word of
Yeah.
mouth. And like that's how I found out about it is my friend was coming into town to visit me and I was like, "What do we do?" And someone was like, "You have to go to Friday Harbor, you have to go on a kayak tour, and you have to go through this company." And I was like, "Great, send me the website. Let's go."
Love when that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tom and I have these conversations constantly about marketing strategy and all of that. And it's like we hold true to a lot of principles that have existed with the company now. We're going into our 40th season next year. I've obviously only been a part of two so far, going into my third. Tom bought the company years ago from a gentleman that he worked for named Clark Casebolt. Tom's been with the company for a really, really long time. And we just like hold true to providing a good, authentic experience without the gimmicks. We were doing like this digital detox promo where on the day trips in particular, if you agree to leave your phone in the van
Yeah.
for the 5 hours that we're going to be out there, we give you a 10% rebate
Mm.
afterwards. So if you agree to leave your phone in the van, we'll give you a rebate.
Yeah.
With Tom's approval, literally spend like a couple hours a month going in and refunding 10% back to people's credit cards. So
Yeah.
like not only is he paying me time to do that, but we're just literally handing money back to customers. Like who does that, right? It's like everything, every kind of promo, every kind of discount, everything you see anywhere ever is always exclusions apply. There's like a paragraph of terms and conditions. We're like, if you do this, we'll give you this, and that's it. And that's it.
Hmm.
And ask, it's funny because our guests, like, they don't even ask about it. I've not gotten a single email from somebody that says, hey, I was, granted, like, we process them in a reasonable amount of time, but like, no one ever follows up and asks, hey, I was supposed to get the 10% back. When can I expect to receive that?
Yeah.
No one. So it's also this awesome unspoken thing too, where credits are just appearing on people's credit card statements,
Yeah.
you know, a week, 2, 3 weeks after a tour, depending on when I get to it.
Yeah.
And it's just like another moment of like, wow, that company gave me money back like they said they would because I left my phone in the van.
One thing that I think we jumped right into with Outdoor Odyssey is like, will you kind of explain what Outdoor Odysseys does in like a general term? Bring everyone up to speed that hasn't been on the tours yet.
Yeah. So we provide a variety of tour types, kayaking tours on the open water. And the San Juan Island is a very safe and sort of calm environment. It's a great place to sea kayak because we're just not dealing with a ton of waves and whatnot. We obviously are dealing with currents, and that's all sort of normal, but you're dealing with a lot of scenarios of water is still and calm. And so it's a great place to paddle. And so we have a variety of offerings from 3-hour trips to go out at night to experience bioluminescence and half-day tours to full-day trips to overnight trips standardized across like 3 and 4 day trips, but then custom up to any length, really. People just call us and we create an itinerary based on where they want to go and some of their other interests, like yoga or focusing more on wine and elevating the cooking experience and all that. And then we white label and partner with a bunch of third parties and do really cool stuff around working with the brewery or working with the vineyard, working with the school, take students out, do all sorts of great experiences that fit in with the DNA of another entity that's trying to have like a team building experience or just a bonding experience with their family or with their friends. And so we either can sort of fully program the experience or just provide the boat, the guides, the equipment, the food,
Mhm.
and have it be something that you could then dress up as a third party entity. So we have a lot of fun with that, a lot of different trip experiences, different tour types. So, but that's what we do. And that's all we do, is take people kayaking and camping. And so we do it really well. We have it down to a science.
Yeah.
And we have, I think, the best staff. I think we just have the best staff. We really do. And it all emanates from Tom, and that's an important point that I want to make, especially in the context of capitalism.
Hmm.
And my perspective, having have worked for corporations historically, I have been in the rooms where we are whiteboarding what our values are
Hmm.
and whiteboarding a marketing campaign to tell the world about our values,
Yeah.
right? It's like, we believe in this, and you pump millions of dollars out into the world advertising
Yeah.
what you want people to believe about your brand,
Uh-huh.
right? Like that's the whole world in a nutshell, the whole capitalist society in a nutshell, right? Working for a small business for somebody who lives it, who lives the ethos, the things that we believe in, and I'll get into that in a second, is structurally and just fundamentally completely different. It makes it so much more meaningful, so much more honest. And I think it's the biggest reason we're as successful as we are because we aren't full of crap. Kind of what we were talking about earlier about like the perspective and being in the moment. Like it's so important for us to help people disconnect, not just from the devices, but from just the intensity and the busyness of life and reconnect either with themselves. We have a lot of people that come out on the trips alone. Hello,
Yeah.
that's how I started, was going out on a trip by myself.
Yeah.
But with your family, with your friends, my gosh, like everybody's looking for ways to reconnect with people that matter in their lives.
Yeah.
And, if you're a family of five sitting at home in suburban Seattle and most of your life is taking kids back and forth to sports and practice and homework, and you're working 2 jobs, or 2 jobs in the household, and it's cooking and cleaning, and, your life is just busy all the time because that's what it's like to live in America. Like coming out with us on a multi-day trip with your family where we're doing the packing, the unpacking, helping you with all
Mhm.
that. We're doing the cooking, the cleaning up, you know, like you're participating in that to some extent, but you're feeling pretty chill about it. We're making it as easy for you as possible and you're having an awesome experience. And then you're slowing it all down and you're watching your kid or your best friend or your coworker, have that experience that you had or that I had where you're appreciating the natural world around you.
I remember I'm going to use the word like intentionality again and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the knowledge and the education going on both tours. I specifically remember whoever our guide was like talking about the food. Like there was handmade stuff. They were like, we pick this cheese was made by so and so. We picked up these vegetables from the farmer's. Like they were talking about how the things came and like there was a story and there was a thought process and a decision with every like aspect of it. And it was just so
Yeah.
cool. I mean, yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. So Tom, and I know you guys will talk about this. He's probably him and my mother are the most sustainable people I've ever met in my life. Like they will both use anything that they own until it cannot be used anymore.
Mhm.
Like everything that carries through the company. We use everything until I'm like, Tom, we need new coolers. Like they're falling apart.
Yeah.
Like we gotta just bite the bullet and buy something.
Yeah.
Um, there is this natural low carbon footprint, being conscious of and kind to the planet in everything we do from our energy use, like we're a solar powered operation, we're obviously a human powered sport. But then like thinking about like how does that carry through, right? It's about minimizing packaged foods and sourcing things as locally as possible, including herbs from our own garden, and sourcing products from the islands and from the local farms.
Yeah.
And there's so many good aspects of that. One, it's healthier. It's not traveling as much. So it's a lower carbon footprint on the planet. You know where it was made. You're supporting a local business and people in the local economy who are trying to do the right thing by growing their food in a responsible way. So it just has this huge cascading effect. We spend a lot of money on food. Staffing is our number one expense. Food is our number two expense.
Mhm.
Spend a ton of money on food. So those choices to spend, first of all, more than we have to, right? Because we could feed you. I can just bulk order everything and feed you.
Mhm.
But we're consciously choosing to source the cheeses and the wine and the spreads and the vegetables and the herbs, everything from local purveyors because we're trying to lift up our friends, frankly, and the local economy, in addition to being as eco-conscious, eco-friendly in practice as is possible. And that emanates from who Tom is and how he lives his life. And that's what's been so incredible is he's not jetting around the world in a private jet and like having a high carbon footprint and then showing up in a boardroom and saying, our values are sustainability.
Yeah.
And we're
Uh-huh.
going to tell everybody that we're sustainable. It's like, no, we're using the cooler until it's falling apart. And we're using a rubber spatula to get the very last drop of sour cream out of the tub,
Mhm.
kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
How do you guys view yourselves as a part of that local ecosystem?
Whale watching and kayaking are huge, and kayaking is pretty large. There's a couple big companies, and then we're a smaller player on the islands as well. So we're really a foundational aspect of the local economy. The number one economic activity for the San Juan Islands by a long shot
Yeah.
is tourism. So it supports a lot of jobs, it supports a lot of livelihoods, and all those values I talked about earlier and why I chose to live there in the first place. That all comes through into these choices as well, right? And through Tom's decisions and guidance. We want to support people and local businesses so that we can protect what we love so much about this place. What's great is that we're not sacrificing quality.
Yeah.
If anything, we're enhancing quality because the stuff that we're getting is good. It's not like we're doing a buy local campaign and our local offerings
Yeah.
aren't good. It's really good stuff across the board, whether we're talking about coffee, dairy, wine, herbs, fruit spreads.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you're doing with the digital detox and the rebates. It reminds me a little bit about a company that's like one of my North Stars that I would love to get on the project because they just have such a against the grain a way of operating when it comes to making decisions like Patagonia. Like to have an
Oh,
entire marketing ethos that is don't buy our product or like you're gonna buy this one thing for the rest of your life. And like all of these things that are just like what? You're building an entire company telling people not to buy anything from you. And like it reminds me of what you guys are doing in Digital Detox. Like, come out here and we're just gonna give you your money back. Like, we didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong.
oh,
In fact, you had a great time and here's your money back. And like, but building a business model on those kinds of things that are like, wait, what?
flattering to be compared to Patagonia. It's like to your point, is one of the best actors out there. When I do buy the random thing once in a while, like you are paying more money for it,
Mhm.
but I'm so okay doing that because of everything you just said, right? And because it's quality. I think a lot of people struggle with this, like in our fast-paced capitalist society, where it's about turning a profit. We've turned so many industries into fast, quick burn through, fast fashion, cheaply made. Like to people, I don't think people even realize these days, most of the materials in your clothes, if you're buying them inexpensively at discount stores, are petroleum based, acrylic, polyester, rayon. All of these materials are actually fossil fuel based. Like we're wearing clothes derived from oil.
Yeah.
Which is like fascinating. Like you might as well be dressing yourself in like plastic bo water bottles.
Yeah.
And not only are we that, so we've cheapened the goods, but you're then because they're cheap, they don't last, and so you're having to buy more. And then on top of it, constantly changing what's in, which I do think that's premeditated in a lot of ways. I do think there are some larger marketing forces out there that are pushing. It kills me, it cracks me up. I don't know if you remember, like, 90s was like all about brass and gold fixtures in houses, and then 2000s was all about like getting rid of all gold and brass and putting in all stainless steel everything. And then all of a sudden, brass and gold is back again. It's like
Yeah.
we literally like installed, ripped out, reinstalled.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And like,
Yeah.
different styles come back in. Like the biggest brands right now are Champion and Carhartt.
Uh-huh.
You know, I put my Champion Carhartt stuff from the 80s in garbage bags and donated them a really long time ago. Right
Yeah.
now they're like
Yeah.
10 times the price. And, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And the needing to impress people with what you're wearing or what you're showing off too. So I just love being part of a brand and that's similar to a Patagonia in a way where it's quality over quantity. You're getting a really good product. You're paying a little bit more for it. Our kayak tours are, I think, are reasonable for what you're getting out of it. But it's not inexpensive for a family
Right.
of five to come up and go out on a trip. I want it to be a meaningful experience for people.
How are you on like a daily basis pulling in some of these values of it sounds to me like you guys are more about like, well, we're just gonna live it. Like, how's that kind of blended together with your role in what you do every day?
Yeah, so what's good is, we're not really like the tech is there where we need the tech, but we're not an automated operation. Like we're still very much a human powered operation on all fronts.
Yeah.
So, if you want to book a trip, yes, you can book it online. You never have to speak to anybody until you show up at your tour. Sure, you can do that. But a lot of people still call, which is nice. And we make ourselves available and answer that phone when people call.
Yeah.
And then in those conversations, especially when people are shopping around with other companies and they're looking for a differentiator, that's when I get to have those conversations with the prospective customers, with the prospective guests, and talk to them about some of our values and how that carries through. If I write up a proposal, for example, for a school, I get to infuse that into that proposal. And you find like, even though somebody didn't ask for it, they like glam onto it. They're so like, oh, wow, like I didn't even think about that. Like, that's so cool. And a school coming out with kids, like, yeah, we're going to talk to you about the environment and we're going to talk to you about indigenous people and we're going to, you're going to get this education you didn't even know you were going to get. It's not just about kayaking, right? So, and when we provide you with the food, to your point, you're going to get spoken to about kind of where it's sourced from. And next thing you know, you're going to be thinking about, local agriculture. and the
Yeah.
climate that we can grow things in. And what's great is we're still a conversational based kind of booking operation. We don't go out of our way. Like I'm not spending thousands of dollars telling everybody how sustainable we are. We're just being sustainable.
Yeah. Do you think that some of those kind of old school practices, the phone calls and those kinds of things, do you think that that's part of what's led Outdoor Odysseys to still be around 40 years later? I mean, there's a lot of companies that burn out really quickly and they're here for 10 years and they're really hot and then they're gone. And that's almost like the planned trajectory is like, we're going to grow real fast, we're going to sell out, we're going
Yeah.
to walk away, we're going to go do something else. But like having a business that's been stable and a part of the community for 40 years, do you think part of it, some of those old school things?
I know it is, because it's the analog aspects of doing business has become so rare. Analog anything in our world has become so rare. And Tom just mailed me this beautiful card, like a handwritten thank you card
Oh,
at the end of the season. I got it just after I got back from my trip. It's like that's who we try to be because if you send me an email, it's gonna be one of 100 emails I get in a day, maybe 150 emails I get in a day. If you send me a handwritten card, it's the only handwritten card I'm getting probably that month. And so just be like living that, it's not only more meaningful and completely, I think, authentic, but it actually now breaks through better than anything digital. And it's funny because not to give away all of our, I don't want to give away our marketing, our secret sauce in my marketing strategy too, with like what some of my background is. But I really do lean into analog tactics a lot. So I'm not just spending our money on Google search and meta search. I'm
mhm.
doing pretty traditional. Like I literally just renewed our contract today for having our rack cards on the ferries. And what's awesome too, and I think another point I want to make about what it's like really working for Tom and working for a small business, we're not reporting our quarterly earnings to shareholders. We do not
Mm,
have that pressure.
yeah.
I don't have to tell a shareholder how I have found efficiency on every line item of the budget in every single quarter. Sometimes efficiency, and I would argue a lot of the time, efficiency isn't the only value, isn't the most important value. And in our very, very capitalistic society, especially the business world, the quarterly reporting is a total disaster. It just is. I mean, even I agree with President Trump on exactly zero things, but his suggestion of like moving to like an every 6 months reporting, like even that
Yeah.
would help so much if we just gave companies some breathing room. Like why we became so obsessed with efficiency on every single front without asking questions about how it was eroding our values, how it was eroding the customer experience.
Yeah.
I mean, how frustrating is it to have to talk to an AI bot when you have a customer service issue versus just getting somebody on the phone, And like to Tom's credit, we're not trying to blow the roof off of this business and in this industry. We're not trying to grow unchecked. And we're certainly not reporting to anybody else. It's
Yeah.
about meaningful growth that keeps up with the times, keeps up with expense growth over time, of course. But we don't want to let go of answering the phone when somebody calls and answering a question. We just don't want, because then we lose a part of who we are. I don't, and like I said earlier with the food, we don't want to source our food in, bulk
Yeah.
and lose that special. Because then it's like you just end up with a sanitized, monotone experience. And that's what America is, and a lot of capitalist societies are sliding towards. I don't know if you've noticed this, like I travel all the time. I've been all over the country. And sometimes I'm in a city and I'm surrounded by glass and steel buildings. And I'm like, I could be in Atlanta, I could be in Nashville,
Yeah.
I could be in San Francisco, I, I could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Or you're driving in the suburbs and all you see is Walmart, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, KFC. You could drive 40 miles and you'll see Walmart, McDonald's, KFC. And it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
why do we want everything to be the same everywhere? And it's like,
Yeah.
we're only there because of efficiency. Because
Hmm.
if you only have to have one hamburger recipe
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
only have to put one bun order for, thousands of locations or
Yeah.
whatever, it's like, congratulations, you've achieved efficiency, but gosh, have you lost authenticity?
Yeah.
So I hope we've peaked in that regard. I
Yeah.
really do. And like I love what's happening on like the artisanal beer front,
Yeah.
for example, like huge pushback on all the big beer companies with all of craft beers and and
Yeah.
especially places like, coffee shops and things like that, like big pushback on the big chains there.
Yeah.
So my team at American Express, I used to work for Amex. My team used to run the Small Business Saturday program, and it was like my favorite thing of what we did because it pushed it's just shop small as an overall theme in general,
Yeah.
and it was like, gosh, people actually remembered like how nice it was to have a town that you can walk to and
Hmm.
procure your stuff.
Yeah.
I could rant and rant about this stuff. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to
Yeah.
all this,
Yeah.
like I don't love the supermarket. I kind of wish we can go back to like going to the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick makers like
Yeah.
on Main Street and have quality of all those things.
Yeah.
So to come around full circle on this, we're a tour operator that, to your point, going into our 40th year, you know, is a business that did well in the 80s and that's still doing well now because we're still living those values.
Yeah. It, I was thinking when you were talking also about like, so I'm gonna get a little like too much for a second, but like we're a society that is constantly very generalized speaking here, like we're too busy. We have too much to do. There's not enough time. I can't go to the store, so I have to buy things on Amazon. I can't get away from that. I have to do this because I can't do anything. I can't go to the store anymore. And it's like, well, what about like the experience of going to the store? What about the experience of walking in and interacting with people and choosing which thing you want out of the things, or choosing nothing and just being there and getting a cup of coffee and walking away, and that's fine. And like truly having like the good part of capitalism, the competition there of like we are different. These are the things that are making ourselves
Yeah.
like set apart from one another. And it kind of made me think about Door Odyssey again. And like everything has a story. If you are going there for a tour, most likely you're not living on the island. You have to go. You have to go take a ferry from Anacortes and you have to spend the day and you have to get your whole family and it's going to take some time and then you have to camp or stay or whatever. Like it's not just a what 4 hour tour. It's you're going on vacation, you're going on a trip, and you're going on this curated experience. And it's like that can be your event. And you're also going to go to the store while you're there. You're also going to go to the market and see all the local things. And like it's an experience. And if we can live our lives for an experience again, then maybe it
Yeah.
won't feel all like, I don't have time to do anything. I don't have money to do anything. I'm overwhelmed. And it's like, okay, well, what if we just like enjoy the things we do again? And I don't know.
Yeah, and the undertone in experience in all of it really is connection. Like that's what experience is, right? Like yes, we love the music at a concert that we're going to, but we are responding to the energy of having that shared experience with thousands of people, right?
Yeah.
And you're on a trip with people and you're experiencing something great. It's you're experiencing with other people and you're all having this profound experience together. And it's that connection, that bonding that's making you feel that way about it. The going to the store and looking up and making eye contact, it does things for our brain and for our spirit and for our soul. And what I was saying earlier about Friday Harbor, people holding the door and looking at me and saying hello on the street and all of that, it was so soul nourishing. And it was just the most fundamental human connection. And I think like COVID obviously was a huge deal. It was a big wake up call for a lot of people because it forced a greater degree of isolation than I think we even realized we already had, right?
Mm.
It put isolation under the microscope. And I really personally reacted to that, right? Because I was like, whatever the complete opposite of this is what I want, right? Like I never want to have this experience again. Um, I crave connection with people. I really do, with nature and all of that. So I think that it's funny because I think like the slowing down, kind of this like going back to the efficiency thing I was talking about with businesses and stuff. Like, I just think efficiency is the enemy of connection. I really do
Mm,
in every context. Like to your point, if you're going to get everything you need, online, and I'm guilty of it, I do it a
right.
lot. I order a lot of stuff online,
Yeah.
sure, but just now, like I'm a little dressed up. I tried to do my hair, try to look cute today because I was running errands,
Yeah.
and not for nothing, I'm a single guy and I'm trying to date. And
Yeah.
every time I go out of the house, I'm like, maybe I will meet my future husband today.
Uh-huh.
So I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna look cute. And sometimes at the end of the day, I'm like, I passed like 10 people that I thought I maybe could have had a connection with today in some way, but they were looking down,
Yeah.
or I was looking down,
Yeah.
and every once in a while I think about posting that or creating a t-shirt or a bumper sticker that says, I could have met you today, but we were both looking at our phones,
Mhm.
and it's like,
Yeah.
so I love like, what being inefficient
Yeah.
does for connection. Um, and even if I could just pull that thread through to one more area, because
Yeah.
I think it's like this, obviously you could tell I think this really animates me.
Yeah.
Technology. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Smart anything in the house, like not for nothing. I'm sorry. It was so much easier to watch a movie when you put a DVD in a DVD player than it is
Yes.
to like get logged out, have to do a software update, remember what your password is, like all of that, download, connection. It was so much easier to just have a wire hooked up to the TV and to
Mhm.
know like you had this tangible thing and a set of keys versus a keypad
Yeah.
to get into your house or like needing to my old house in New Jersey, like if we lost power, you couldn't open the garage, you couldn't control the thermostat, you couldn't open the front door. It was like, what
Yes.
are we doing? Like
Yeah.
why what like I
Yeah.
just need to open the door. Like a key is fine. I will carry a key.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be
You
fine.
know?
People did it for a lot of years. We can do it. We
Yeah.
can carry keys. Uh-huh.
So it's like again, like this notion of like efficiency in all things. It's robbing us of quality and it's robbing us of meaningfulness and connection and slowing down.
Yeah.
I think it's a big sham. I think efficiency is a huge sham.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Uh-huh. Which is why you should just get on a kayak and use your
Just
hands
get
and
on
your
a
feet
kayak,
and just float around.
leave your phone in the van.
Yeah, you'll get
Yeah,
10% back.
and get 10% back. Absolutely.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about like what do you have your eye on in the future?
Our pace of growth jives with my spirit. It feels achievable. It feels like quality over quantity. It's keeping up with ever increasing expenses, of course, and it's challenging as it should be. It's a job, right? But it feels achievable. And that feels good to me. The other side of like the corporate quarterly reporting to shareholders, the other side of that is how that cascades into expectation setting and performance management of employees that work for all these companies as well. And having been through some of those places, it's hard to have the company put out a 7%, growth expectation, and all of a sudden you have to figure out how to grow revenue by 7% in your particular sector or however you contribute to that happening and being part of that wheel, right? Then
Yeah,
it's like you're just even more and more a cog in a machine or, whatever. And, losing like there's no regard for your humanity or your work-life balance, or the hours that you're working and all of that. So I'm really good with where I am. I love it.
yeah,
Tom is great to work for. And I think as long as we're like staying on this trajectory with this smart but steady growth over time,
yeah,
that feels really good to me, as well as protecting the spirit of everything we've talked about
yeah,
with the company for our customers, for our employees. And I think a win would be the more we are proving this model can be successful and then seeing other places adopt it. Like, I
mhm,
want to do more of this stuff. I love talking to you. I love having this conversation.
yeah,
I want to, I would love to consult, with other companies and help other companies realize, how to kind of shift things back to these ways of operating.
yeah. And proof that it works. I think that the things that you guys are doing are proof that if we change the perspective on things like efficiency and growth and scaling into a more stable way, like you were just talking about it,
Yeah,
like let's do something that is sustainable in terms of like we can actually sustain this as a company. If we grow 7% every year, or if we grow 7, 8, 9% every year, like we're not going to be able to keep that. At some point, we're going to hit a point where like we can no longer keep up with that. And then
right.
things will crumble. But if we do something in a slow, steady, regular, thoughtful way, maybe a little bit less efficient, like we'll actually be able to stick around. And I think that it's
Yeah.
proof that businesses like that can do it.
And I think another factor in all of this too is like I, this overall question of like what's enough. Because certainly in capitalism and with a profit motive, and look, I do believe in the balance of it all.
Right.
I think it's off balance completely, but I do believe in capitalism being part of the equation. I think the profit motive is really important for innovation, especially like prescription drugs and some technology and medical advancements and all that kind of stuff. Like people have to be hungry in order to invent and to move the needle. Um, but that all said, like I think as a country, I think as a society, we are suffering by this question of like having enough or what is enough, and not recognizing what truly makes us happy and trying to fill that with all the wrong things, with the acquisition of too much stuff, with having houses that are huge and expenses to keep up with those houses that force us to have to work more and work more jobs and keep up with all of that. And instead of like stripping it all down to fundamental questions of like what is enough,
Yeah.
and that's what I love about our Odysseys and our growth is it's like our question is what's enough to make sure our guides are some of the best, if not the best paid on the island, that we have enough to run our business, to keep equipment up to date, to give good food, to have a good experience. We have
Mhm.
enough to do all those things with growing expenses, not like can we make enough money to, I don't know, buy $100,000 thing, whatever that is. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like it's not like
Mhm.
we want to make enough money to acquire another business, so we're going to raise prices by the, so
Yeah.
it feels like Tom, frankly, and then our company overall has a really good grasp on the philosophy around enough
Mm.
and having enough and what feeling fulfilled should feel like and is like. And so I just love that those personal aspects of who he is cascades through the company. And, it's him and I are the only two full-time year-round employees, right? Like we have to
Mm.
really like each other and get along for it to work,
Yeah. Yeah.
have similar values. And that's what I think I love the most is like we have our Venn diagram with life values is like so strongly overlapping that it really matters.
Okay, so in talking about things like that, like the people that you are working with and you're driving with and that you're overlapping with, my final question that I have for absolutely everyone is who's another business and or leader that you see out there in the world that's doing things the right way? And it could be anyone, could be someone that you work with, it could be a coach or a mentor or someone that you are a customer of, absolutely anyone that you think deserves a shout out.
Whew. I am suffering a little bit from a lack of having heroes these days.
Yeah.
I have to be honest.
Yeah.
I used to find a lot of inspiration in politics. Um, I feel like it's really hard for me to look across the business world. It's really hard for me to look across the political world and find inspiration at all these days. It is the rare person that resigns
Mm.
from their position. I was one of them
Yeah.
over values. That inspires me. Malala was just here in Seattle on Monday night. I didn't get to go see her, but she's somebody who continues to inspire, who has made the hard choices. But it's hard, even people that I really admire. I admire a lot of people, Alanis Morissette, Oprah. I still see them as a little bit of a money-making machine,
Right.
and I'm at a loss of finding people other than the obvious Dalai Lama,
Mm.
Malala, Greta
Hmm.
Thunberg,
Hmm.
right? Like these like completely principled people that aren't making money off of what they're doing or donating everything. And like, you gotta have enough to live.
Yeah.
You gotta have enough to live and be comfortable. Um, Billie Eilish, she's
Yeah.
been impressing me lately with her giving money away and her pledges. Even Bill Gates has turned over a little bit of a new leaf. Like they're shutting down the Gates Foundation. You know,
Yeah.
that has a trajectory over years, and he's pledged to give away all of his money.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett, similarly, you know, so, but I am lacking, I'm a little starved for heroes these days in America, to be honest with you.
I mean, is it fair to say that one of those answers could be Tom, and that he, like you, came to
Yes.
follow him and say, like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna hitch my
Yeah.
cart to you here.
Yeah. If I'm not imagining like the world of celebrities and fig public
Yeah.
figures that everybody on this podcast would relate to, then 100%.
Yeah.
Like finding a boss who shares your values and who values you,
Yeah.
um, and gives you like the best work-life balance possible is priceless. And having that match with Tom and with Outdoor Odysseys
Yeah.
with really fair compensation, really fair work-life balance that fits when I've made all of these choices and decisions feels really, really good. And it's a bigger thing that I want to help people figure out and get towards because I think it's one of the crises around with mental health and happiness overall is I think people are thinking they need a lot more than they need and trying to be way too efficient
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
acquiring and maintaining too much stuff. You have to listen to your gut. Stop quieting that voice. We have so figured out in our society how to numb and distract away from that sensation that is telling us that something isn't right. It's not right. You can convince yourself all you want that you're happy with the huge house and all the stuff and the name brand labeled things and the, you know, and the fancy job and the car and all that. And if you are distracting, you know, your way away from that sensation and that voice or trying to numb it in other ways, like that's the one thing I wish for humanity is like get back to listening to that inner compass that we all have, like consciousness that I actually believe is connected to source, to God, to the force, whatever you want to call that energy. Um, Getting back to that and getting more in tune and honest with that, I feel like that is a solve for so many of our problems individually and as a society. So that's the last point that I really would wanted to make sure I made.
Yeah. Well, Peter, thank you. I think you landed the plane really perfectly there. I can't thank you enough for doing this. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to me and to all of us in a very like slowed down and old school long form conversation kind of
Love
way
it.
that I think that it's the best way to like kind of get into the meat of like who people are that are behind all of these businesses. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time here.
I really appreciate the opportunity. I know it's just cliche to say that, but I appreciate the opportunity, the work that you put into this with your emails and really explaining things and where you were coming from and what your motivation was, and the quality of the product that you produce. I've reviewed, like I've looked through your content, I've watched your other podcasts on YouTube and stuff. So I really appreciate what you're putting out there into the world and where you're coming from. So thank you for allowing me to be part of this. Really appreciate it.
Hey folks, thanks so much for listening to the Capitalism for Good podcast. Just as a reminder that you can directly support the podcast and your community by subscribing at patreon.com/capitalism for good. 10% of all Patreon dollars are donated to a rotating monthly charity of choice so we can spread the goodness right back to our community. You can find this month's charity of choice at Instagram at Capitalism for Good and on the Patreon. And also remember that one-time purchases of ad-free bonus or exclusive collections at patreon.com/capitalism for good count as well. Thanks so much. All right, that's enough. Let's go leave this place better than we found it.